So when this grant was originally requested, was the entire road was not taken into consideration?
This was started in 2017, and then COVID hit, and it kind of got put on the back burners. The original budget dollars for construction was way less 5 years ago.
So 5 years ago, the entire road would have been
No,
paid.
just where the utilities are being added.
Okay, so more popular.
This is the septic to sewer situation where we're taking people off of septic and putting them on sewer, so it's just certain sections of Live Oak that are not on sewer. So as we put it in the ground and we're gonna pave over it, and then hopefully, like we talked earlier today, we won't be digging that road back up for a very long time. Not like the rest of Duval and other parts of town.
And that's using that material that,
Choose to do so.
All right, any further questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item H. Sessions.
All right, discussion for possible council action bid award for ITB 02-2024. Joanne, do you have that bid?
John, they passed papers to pass out.
Everybody should have it.
Gonna have some be the kind of bluish colored
Yeah.
staple document.
Yeah.
There it is right here. Back page, you see the three bids.
So-
Mr. Clerk, this one will be associated with Resolution 2024-20. It has the blanks in it.
Okay. Say that again, Mr. Attorney. Didn't hear you. What'd you say?
If the council approves the recommendation to give the lowest bid or award the lowest bid to D&B Heavy Equipment Inc., I was just verifying that the next resolution on the agenda, I would need to write in the name of that company to make that resolution complete. We did one with blanks in the event that the council approved the city's administration's recommendation, and that way we didn't have to bring it back to the next meeting.
So the bid was for $168,200 was the low bid. The high bid was $373,939, and we recommend going with the lower bid, save a little bit of money.
All right, you've heard the recommendation from staff. What's the pleasure of the council?
Oh, motion that we go with the, ITB 02-2024, go with the lowest bid, $167,000 plus.
D&B Heavy Equipment.
D&B Heavy Equipment.
D&B heavy equipment.
Yes, sir, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion?
yes. Sorry, but yes.
Go ahead.
There's a, between the lowest bid and the next bid, there's $120,000 difference. And then of course with the last bid, there is even a larger amount. So what is it that one, in the thing that one company was doing that the other company wasn't, to have such a, I understand that companies set their own rate, but is there something that we're not getting that was, because sometimes the lowest is not always the best, and sometimes the highest is not always the
You're
best.
right. JL can explain it, but basically we're just putting water underneath 129. So it's not that big a deal, but JL can explain it in more detail. We're just trying to make sure that we're looping and connecting all of our water, and that was one of our big issues, was getting it under 129.
And using that same material that we're talking about,
It's 12-inch water line, he can explain that.
So the way this bid went out, it was all a lined item bid. So the engineer put in what items need to be bid out, and then these three companies brought back costs for each line item. Some were higher, some were lower, but across the board, the lowest bidder was the best price, best bang for the price, and most all of them there was one or two line items that was higher than others, but overall, the lowest bidder met the criteria and the standards that we were required on that project.
I understand your concern, Councilwoman, because I've seen these in the past as well, I had the same question, but it's not uncommon, just from my 2 years' experience, to see these discrepancies in prices. I mean, it's just, free market enterprise. And as long as the scope, in my opinion, as long as, what I've seen so far, as long as the scope is the same, then, we're not gonna put it
Sometimes
down.
companies like the bigger companies are really busy. I hate to say it like this, but they'll bid up. And then if you go ahead and take their bid, they're gonna make money and they're gonna switch over and jump on this project. But if they don't really want the project, they'll bid up.
What type of guarantee do we get? Is there, after they put this loop around and something happens, are they coming back? I mean, is that in this bid?
It's in the scope of work, yes.
Yeah.
There's a contract attached to it that everyone, the city and them will have to execute, and it provides for all the contingencies, the time periods, the standards, the inspections. Is it Utah that's in charge of this?
Yes.
So our engineer, Utah, will be there to make sure that each step and each progress is made according to the specifications.
Have the city ever done business with this company?
Yes, ma'am.
And
And I can't quote it, but it may be the same company that's doing the septic sewer for Anderson, because they're subbing out the underground.
since you all are the experts in this right here, you're satisfied with what the work that they have performed?
Yes, ma'am. He's done work for the city before. It was just a different company that he was working for at the time.
All right, any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Item I, George.
You know, item J. I would just answer
So item I is
C and B.
actually the same exact as H, it's just contingent on the passing of.
Well, I get it, let me look, we may have jumped it. Yeah, we need to read City Council Resolution number 2024-20, the resolution of the City Council of the City of Live Oak, Florida, accepting a bid from D&B Heavy Equipment related to the installation of a 12-inch water main under US 129, located within the City of Live Oak, Florida, providing for the award and execution of a contract, and providing for an effective date.
I know they got rid of it. My motion.
And what's the pleasure of the council?
I vote that we approve 2024-20.
Have a motion?
TDB. Motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second? And we have a second. Any further discussion concerning this item?
No, sure, Mr. President.
All in favor? Opposed? Resolution 2024-20 passes. Moving on to item J.
Ordinance number 1514, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code for the City of Live Oak, Florida, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such code, and providing which such code and this ordinance shall become effective. And then as to each of the next ordinances, we'll need to open a public meeting, public hearing as to any comment specifically as to the ordinances.
All right, item J was the pleasure of the council.
Offer motion that we approve ordinance number 1514.
All right, we have a motion approving the first reading of ordinance 1514. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Discussion.
We need to open the public hearing as for public comment on just this ordinance.
That's on item J.
Yeah, we'll do that on each of the
All right,
five ordinances.
so before we have any discussion up here at the council level, if anybody in the public would like to address this ordinance, first reading? Seeing none, discussion amongst council?
section 4. Of this ordinance. And
Mr. Sessions,
Ooh,
provide
Mr.
clarification.
Sessions.
Yeah, or, I'll let George explain, I mean,
George can explain it.
If I'm not mistaken, this is the MENA code codification. So several years ago, the clerk who works with MENA code on a regular basis, we contracted with them for them to go through our MENA code book, which is all our code of ordinances for the entire city, and to look for outdated language that contradicted state statute, references to names and positions and criteria that was no longer relevant or applicable, especially due to our charter amendment that we did in 2013 where we updated the charter, I believe it was 2013. And so it was a comprehensive overhaul of the code of ordinances to make it consistent with state statute and to eliminate any kind of contradictions. And so this ordinance, in effect, hits the reset button on that entire book of ordinances based on the research that MENA Code did, which is our firm we contract with that manages all our laws and documents, basically. So, in a nutshell.
Good job.
Thank you.
Further discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, first reading of ordinance 1514 passes. Agenda item K.
ordinance number 1515, an ordinance of the city of Live Oak, Florida, amending the future land use classification to 1.760 acres more or less, small scale, on the future land use plan map of the city of Live Oak comprehensive plan pursuant to an application CTA 24-02 by the property owners and or their authorized representative under the amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 Florida statutes as amended, and Article 3 of the Land Development Regulations of the City of Live Oak, Florida, providing for a change in the land use classification from residential moderate density and residential medium density to commercial on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Live Oak, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing authority, and providing an effective date.
All right, what will be the pleasure of council?
Mr. President, I was, at this point, I'd want to open your public hearing, and then that way they can hear any comment before any motions.
I got you, yes, sir. All right, public comment.
What land is
Well,
Yeah, come on.
get on the record. Your name.
My name's Jeff Shalou, 712 Park Street. What property is this we're talking about?
This is, I'm gonna yield to Mr. Curtis, he can explain. I'm pretty sure this is all in doing with the, around the Westwood Baptist Church
That's
area.
correct.
Okay, this ain't over about Park Street Railroad?
No, this is a property that Westwood Church, over the past several years, has been assembling one property at a time from their existing sanctuary to the east, all the way to the roundabout, and then moving north up to Liberty Street. And because they are seeking to redevelop those properties as part of an expansion to be determined, but we assume it's to do with the school and the church, obviously. The land use and zoning change, which is this matter, and then the subsequent one after this, would make the map consistent on all those properties that are kind of a hodgepodge of different classifications, just because of the past uses on those properties were residential in some cases. So the land use change cleans the slate on all those properties, makes it consistent with future growth and development. And then the next item after this is the zoning change to the zoning category, which would support an institutional use like schools and churches, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Any more public comment or questions?
Mr. Curtis, one question. Is this a decrease in the size of the acres? Or they probably larger than 1.7?
The land use change is only required on 1.76 acres because the majority of the property that they have is already commercial. So this reflects changes on some of those smaller rectangular residential properties that they've acquired over time. And they've either torn down the homes or repurposed the properties to support their facility. The zoning change is a larger acreage because it encompasses all the property that they have currently, which is almost all residential, with the exception of a couple commercial pieces on the roundabout. And the office institutional zoning that they're requesting on the next item is the only zoning category that we have that allows for an expansion of a private school or other types of institutional uses. So it's a mandate that in order to grow, the zoning change is required.
So then, I'm thinking about the houses behind Westwood, on this side of the road. If they decided to purchase all that property, a little bit of time, whatever, will that try to work with this change?
Well, any future expansions will go through the same process. And this has been advertised, you know, with multiple signs on the property. The neighborhood's well aware of the situation out there. And the planning and zoning board that we had back in May was open to the public and advertised. And the planning board unanimously recommended approval on these. And there was no public comment received or delivered, you know, for or against this request. So the neighborhood certainly could have come out if they had concerns.
All right, what will be the pleasure of the council?
Motion, ordinance 1515, CPA 2402, first reading.
Motion
Second.
and a second. We have any discussion, questions of council? Having heard none. All in favor? Opposed? First reading of ordinance 1515 passes.
This one is the second part of the same that we just described.
Catch up. This is 1516. Ordinance number 1516, an ordinance of the city of Live Oak, Florida, amending the zoning district to 10.863 acres more or less of land on the official zoning atlas of the city of Live Oak Land Development Regulations pursuant to an application LDR 24-02 by the City Council of the city of Live Oak under the amendment procedures established in Article 3 of the Land Development Regulations, providing for a change in the assigned zoning district from residential single family 2, RSF 2, residential single family 3, RSF 3, and commercial general CG 2, office institutional OI, on certain lands within the corporate limits of the city of Live Oak, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing authority, and providing an effective date.
All right, it's up to public discussion, questions?
Judge Lewis, 712 Park Street. What property is this that we are talking about here?
This is, I'll let Mr. Curtis answer. It's more of the
Because the reason why I'm asking this is because adjacent to my property, there's a sign that says there's something going on next door to us. They're digging holes over there, burying trees, just digging their own wells. I mean, there's several different things that's going on. So
Okay, sure.
curious on it.
Yes, sir. Mr. Curtis?
This is bounded by 11th Street Southwest on the south, which is the street frontage that Westwood Church is on, Ontario on the west, Walker on the east, and Liberty on the north. So it's basically the entire rectangle that Westwood Church is on or has property under their control.
Maximum question.
minus one property that's still occupied as residential, that's not included.
All right. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close.
Let me ask you, if I may ask a question.
Sure.
Mr. Curtis, this is associated with the Westwood? Okay, so I just wanted to make sure after on the title where it says LDR 2402 by the City Council of the City of Live Oak, should that be property owned?
Yes, that is scrivener's error, thank you for catching that. So that would be on behalf of the property owner. We'll correct that for the final reading.
Just so the record would reflect, ordinance number 1516, when I read it, it was pursuant to an application LDR 2402 by the City Council of the City of Live Oak. It should be by the property owner or appropriate representative. So with that change for the second reading, then the motion will reflect, or should reflect, adoption with elimination of the City Council and inclusion of property owner or representative. I just didn't catch that.
So noted. All right, what will be the pleasure of the council?
So just one more, just a simple question. What's your address, sir? So you
712 Park Street.
Where you at?
712 Park Street.
Park Street. Okay. All right.
All right, what will be the pleasure of the council?
Offer a motion to accept ordinance number 1516 with the changes council spoke of.
All right, we have a motion to approve the first reading. We have a second?
I have a second on that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ordinance, first reading of ordinance 1516 passes. Moving on, Mr. Curtis, to item M.
Ordinance number 1517, an ordinance of the City of Live Oak, Florida, amending ordinance number 817 as amended, entitled the City of Live Oak Land Development Regulations pursuant to an application LDR 2403 by the City of Live Oak City Council, adding, amending, renaming, reorganizing, renumbering, and/or striking portions of text within Article 2 definitions. 4,